Welcome to the Battle of Hannut and some Panzerstorm nighttime gameplay. I thought this map deserved a pretty epic intro because, well, it's a really awesome nighttime conversion. What seems like a very simple change, just switching the lights off, might not sound very inviting when the community is calling out right now for brand new maps for the game. You forget the effect that turning the lights off can actually have, and I think here DICE has produced something that people will really appreciate. By changing the time of day the map is set in and focusing the combat around the infantry-centric zone of Panzerstorm, the gameplay on offer in Airborne is totally different to that of Conquest, and I really think it shows how good the infantry zone is on Panzerstorm. Now, since this map dropped back in December, I've been a fan of that C, D, E chain of objectives on Conquest. That's where infantry can really thrive on this map, but still very much be affected by the vehicles as well, both on the ground and the ones in the sky. With Airborne taking all 64 players and sticking them in this much smaller area, you do obviously get a lot more action, and therefore things get super chaotic. But it's also created a far greater atmosphere at the same time. You've got all of these soldiers just shouting and screaming, overlapping each other. You've got machine guns ripping bullets across the field. You've got snipers cracking shots past you. Explosions going off everywhere, lighting up areas for a brief second. It's absolutely brilliant. If you stick on a decent pair of headphones and crank up the volume a little bit, you won't be disappointed. It is a really good experience. I think the atmosphere that's created is probably now the best atmosphere of any map in any game mode within Battlefield 5 at the moment. I really like Devastation during the super rare occurrence of the air raid siren, and then you get the ash falling through the air. I think that makes for a really cool scenario to play out in, but I think now Panzerstorm at night is probably my favourite in all of Battlefield 5. Now, one big concern I'm sure you've got looking at this gameplay, and it was mentioned in the video comments from my video yesterday, it's visibility of soldiers. No secret, Battlefield 5 has had its visibility issues, and it still has them to a certain degree. So how does that translate into a night map? Well, it's not as bad as you might think, but there are still inherent issues at play here. It's now darker, and so players do naturally blend in more. The meta of proning on your back and sitting and waiting for enemies to run past you is still very much alive and well here. I'd really like to see DICE remove the bipod deploy when you fall on your back in a future update to reduce the effectiveness of this playstyle. But in and around the objectives, you'll find plenty of opportunities to pick off players, chuck explosives in, and generally just have a decent time playing this game mode. Enemies choosing to snipe at you actually end up standing out more if they're using their high-powered scopes, because you can see that scope glint much more clearly, and unless players have specifically chosen to apply specializations to their guns that hide the muzzle flash sticks out like a sore thumb as well. It is the bipodders that you need to watch out for, and to be honest, we're having the same issue with maps set during the daytime as we are here on the night map. So I don't necessarily think that it's a night map issue that these bipodders are just as present. I think it's a general Battlefield 5 meta that's at play here. Diving out of the planes as Germans isn't quite the same duck shoot that it is on other grand operations, but I shudder to think what this would have been like if we were playing Panzerstorm during the day. It's such an open map anyway, it would have been like cattle to the slaughter during the day. It is still very obvious where the paratroopers are going to drop, but I find that less people are trying to shoot you down whilst you're in the middle of the air, or at least that's what it felt like to me during my first few playthroughs. As you jump out of the plane, you're still going through the same allied animation system, so you're seeing allied soldiers within the plane, yet you are a German soldier jumping out and paradropping onto the map. There's a big disconnect there, and I thought DICE, 4 months after launch, would have done something about that and created a second animation for the German faction purely for that moment, but it seems that they haven't done that yet. Once you do get on the ground, you are fairly close to the first objective points, but there is a little bit of open ground for you to cover. That first drop is done for you. The game automatically jumps you out of the plane. That's probably the hardest one to move forward from, since you've got more ground to cover, but once you start dropping on your own and you get to hit that button for yourself, you can pretty much pick wherever you want to go. So you can drop right on top of an objective or a building nearby for cover, and that becomes easier for you to move up on. But the biggest tip that I can give you is to properly pace yourself and really pay attention to the cover that's nearby you. Use that cover to move up more effectively without taking too much damage, but just be prepared to be met by players using heavier cover than what you've got closer to the objectives. The defenders of course have the advantage here, but some of Panzerstorm's open spaces make for really annoying spawn death loops if you don't choose wisely and you don't pay attention to your immediate surroundings. Also, smoke grenades are your best friend. They do sort of reveal your position somewhat, but they give you that complete obscurity that you need, maybe to make a dash across an open field or something. They are very, very helpful. One suggestion I would like to make to the level designers for the Panzerstorm map, on Airborne specifically now that it is a night map, is to add some more fortifications a little way out from the objectives. Now, as I just explained, some of those open areas lack any sort of cover, and in the darker setting it's harder to know if an enemy has spotted you or is looking at you. Having some fortification positions around the outside of objective areas, maybe like 40 to 60 meters away or so, in those open fields, might be a good idea. You can have some of them pre-built with maybe extra parts that can be constructed by attackers if they want to set up a point to push from. I think that would really help improve the overall flow here on Airborne. I found myself paradropping back into this map more often than in other grand operations, and that's because my squad were getting picked off more easily when they were trying to move up on the objective from outside that main combat zone. Might be something that they could add in a future update or a future patch, just to improve that quality a little bit more. Now, moving on to the next map, I've got some 64-man rush gameplay to show you. It's really not the best gameplay you're going to see, but it is very much representative of my time spent in 64-man rush so far. My general feelings towards the implementation? It's just a cluster meme. I expected really nothing less from 64-man rush, but it was always going to be a complete and utter chaotic disaster in my head. It's not quite a disaster, it's just complete and utter chaos. Players push up in massive herds, they lumber onto the objective, they get slayed down by the defenders, and then the defenders just disarm the bomb. And then it's rinse and repeat until the attackers finally manage to overcome the defenders for long enough to keep the bomb armed, and the bomb explodes, next sector unlocked. Or you run out of tickets and the match is over. Now, in the 3 matches I played, not once did the attacking team manage to get past the second set of objectives, so I really can't give my full opinion on this game mode, but in general, I get what DICE is going for here. Grand Operations is this big, grindy mode where you just push and push and push, regardless, and just try and win. It's far less tactical because of the higher player count, and the reinforcement numbers are set so high, so you can just keep grinding until you win or lose. Rush is slotted into this equation purely to give players that experience of 32 versus 32 around one objective, just spamming bullets, smoke grenades, explosives and gadgets all into one location to just bring out the pure chaos that we know Battlefield can host. And you do get that here on Arras. Does it make for an enjoyable game mode if you're trying to play tactically? No, not at all. But then in 2 weeks' time, the normal Rush game mode is coming to Battlefield 5 with a 32 player limit, 16 players per team. That's going to be the place to play if you want a more tactical approach. Grand Operations is the mode where DICE literally just throws everything into the mixing pot and just says to the community, well, go and have at it for a bit. And that's okay, because there's clearly an audience out there for that type of experience. As for Final Stand, I'm sure you've guessed it. Nope, I didn't get to experience that. I'm trying to find out what the triggers are that activate the 4th day in this grand operation, but so far I haven't had any concrete word back yet. But I assume it's going to be something like the attackers failing to take the last set of objectives in Rush on day 3, but I just want to experience Final Stand. I've still only played it once in 4 months since Battlefield 5's come out, and apparently this Final Stand has a couple of weird modifiers or changes in it that activate to make things even more interesting, but if I can't actually play the game mode, then I can't experience that. So I really do think DICE needs to change up how Final Stand activates, maybe make it a little bit more lenient. Overall though, I really quite enjoyed the time that I spent so far playing the Battle of Hannut operation. I don't really like grand operations, I don't really play it all that much, but I like this one. I'm definitely going to be playing it a little bit more, and playing it is easier than any of the previous grand operations because it's got its own 24/7 rotation. You just go into the multiplayer menu, and this massive tile right here, you just click that, and you can matchmake into Battle of Hannut 24/7 on Panzerstorm and Arras, and it will just rotate round, and you can just keep playing and playing and playing. So we finally got 24/7 servers in Battlefield 5, and DICE has said they will be adding more of this stuff moving forwards when new content comes out, so people can just jump into the game and they can play the new content straight away. If you want a rating for the Battle of Hannut, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. The nighttime Panzerstorm experience, that is definitely the highlight, and 64-man Rush is arguably the weakest point, but in general it was a good fun experience to play through, and I will be playing more of it. But you guys should let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Is this something that you're going to go and play, or are you going to jump back into regular Conquest and just play on those normal maps? Let me know down below. A big thank you to you all for watching today, and until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.